So welcome back, guys, to another episode of Will's Builds. I feel like this is an episode that I've been waiting for a long time. I hope some other people have been too. But we're finally in here working on the Miata. So, quick update on Kayla's Subaru. It's been running great. She's been driving it. No issues. So, hopefully we're done with that for a little bit. Now, we're going to work on some actual race car stuff. So, all we're going to do today, we're going to start with getting the inside of the car cleaned out. And we're going to start working on the cooling system. So, this has a rear mount radiator. And the hoses run down the transmission tunnel. I'm going to remove all those lines out of the tunnel, and I'm actually going to run them basically right over here on the passenger side, and we're going to get those lines ran as best we can today before we get everything figured out up front with the water pump. We're still waiting on a couple fittings to come in. So like I said, we're going to get the interior of this car cleaned out, get everything removed, and start with the cooling system and see how far we get. To go ahead and drop the fuel tank out of the bottom, disconnect everything, and I'm gonna cut all the cable ties, get as much wiring out of the way as possible. I just want to be able to get these lines, be able to run the coolant lines as easy as possible for me to, if there's leaks or if we have to replace something, like it's kind of a pain going down the tunnel, but I'm just going to reorient them to the easiest place possible for me, and that's going to be going right down the passenger floor. So we got the hoses disconnected, we got everything out of the way, back under here, under the back of the car, and you can see the two lines right here that is where the water would normally come down. You can see the transmission up there, the drive shaft loop, all that stuff, and there's all sorts of other lines like brake line right here. The fuel line runs up on the other side here. So we're going to run these water lines, we're going to reuse this tubing, and we're going to run them down from up here and under and right into this area, possibly this somewhere through this area, or over here where this little hole is right here, because that's right behind the passenger seat area. These lines that are already attached pretty much going to go right over here. This one might actually be too long, but basically it'll go kind of like that. I come down, go back through here, and then up forward and into the engine bay where the holes already are. Alright, so that hole that we could see down there is right there. You can see the light coming through. And it actually looks like we're going to have to go more to the inboard of it, so we can come through somewhere over here, basically run right up the middle, and then right there, you can see there's already 2 holes where the lines came through before. Now before, it would come through here, make a 90, go, one came down this corner, made a 90 down, and then a 90 back, and then same thing over on the other side. That's just too many turns. So that, we're just going to basically angle it down and have it follow the contour of the floor as best we can and get it to go right along the floor back to those tubes. So we're going to get those 2 lines out and bring them up here and lay it out and see how we're going to do this. Alright, so we want to run the coolant lines something like this. Now, this one has a bend in it that goes outboard. This is how it was. This one in the tunnel was on this side of the tunnel, the passenger side. And then the other pipe we have, which doesn't, it's a bit too long right now to fit in here, but it also has a bend in it, but it was on the driver's side and it bends out the opposite direction. So now I have to try and bend this back straight. Actually, I'll probably bend both of these back straight here, and they've got an upwards bend in the front that will be perfect to go up towards the firewall. Okay, so I rehung the rear subframe so I can make sure that when I put the soft lines in off the radiator, they're not going to interfere. And also, I got these straightened out. And I think the way I'm going to do these is going to be something like this. One there. Doesn't fit right now because it's a little bit too long, but basically these 2 spots right here on either side of this little tunnel, which is where the bracing on the outside of the car on the bottom is, you know, kind of where everybody jacks it, uses a jack and ends up crushing it all in. So I think on either side of that little bracing is going to be the best spots here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to drill some holes right here all the way through and start pass this through so I can figure out where the bend needs to be in the front of the footwell area on the passenger side. Alright, so I got the 2 holes drilled, and this one I'm going to have to massage just a little bit to get everything to fit through smoothly. But yeah, basically that one will go somewhere right in there, and this one will go through there just like that. I'm going to put some rubber around the outside of the holes so it's not metal on metal, because this is steel, this is aluminum, it'll wear through it pretty quickly. Alright, so here's the water pump, and these are -12 fittings, and this is like I think this is like 1.25 inches or something like that. It's much bigger than the tube, but I'm going to get another AN adapter that can thread right into the water pump in its place. And basically I'm going to run the 2 -12s off of here, which is the fittings I'm waiting on, is off of those. Now, as you can see, this is very close right here, coming off of the fitting to this. So I don't know if a 90 is even gonna clear this, so I might have to get a 90-degree fitting that has the -12 O-ring threads directly on it, which is all this is just a union, and thread it basically straight into the plate, this block here. and then it's gonna come out and go to those two are gonna tee into like a -16 probably, and go into this tube here, which as you can see goes right back through the firewall, and there's another hole under it, which is where the other line's gonna come. And this goes to the coolant reservoir right here. These two lines are gonna go to the steam ports, but well, that'll probably be its own video. So this tube already being done with this and fitting -6 or I think it's a -8 actually. This line basically has to go right here. And then if we come around it here, you can see where the water line is coming through the firewall right here, and then the lower one obviously. And we got the two lines coming up along the floor like this. And these will just have a 90 coming down from up here, two 90s off these down, and then splitting off to these two lines here. So this should be pretty straightforward from here on out. Alright, so I think I got up here set up kind of how I want it. This, I swung it over a little more, and that let me shorten this up and push it in just a hair. So I probably won't actually end up having to cut any of it off. But I also got the lower pipe in, and as you can see, it's pretty tight right here with the header. I'm gonna have to do something about that, whether I move it over to here and run it straight or something like that. But once we get all this stuff for up here, that'll be its own video just on the engine stuff. But for now, this is set up pretty much how it's gonna be up here in the engine bay. Now under here is pretty much how it's going to be, save for a couple of the connectors there. I might just get 45s or 30s or something like that, or 60s, whatever that angle would be. Here they are coming out of the firewall, one on top of the other. Basically, the top one just extends in a little more, so the 290's clear, and then they're kind of canted off of each other a little bit, and then they come down. But you can see the angles. Those silicone connectors on there are 90s, and that angle is definitely not 90 degrees. So, yeah. So we'll get some new connectors, and then you can see it's off the floor quite a bit up here, which I don't know if I'm going to end up keeping that, or if I'll maybe angle them down a little bit. If I angle these down closer to the floor and just make these longer, it'll basically have the same effect, but it'll look much cleaner. And then basically come back, and then through this rear firewall here. So there's the two water lines coming out on either side of that little frame rail. And up here, this water line coming off the radiator is going to go straight down. The other one, I don't know if you're going to really be able to see it, but there is the connection to the water line right there, and I want to run this water line across from over here, and then right where this hole already is, somewhere in here, make this hole a little bit bigger, run it down. So that is our next step, is getting this end of the water lines all connected up. So I'm just going to throw this fire extinguisher bottle and the battery temporarily back in. Right about there, just so I know where I can and cannot put the hose through. So it actually looks like I'm gonna be able to put this hose pretty much right where I want to, just off a little bit. Basically right here between the fire bottle and the battery. And that'll go straight down to that other connection point on that hose. Grab my marker. Mark out just where the battery sits and kind of where the fire bottle sits, something like that. All right, so pull this stuff back out real quick and get to cutting. That is going to wrap it up for this episode of Will's Builds. Just a quick recap what we did. So we got these two lines here in the engine bay ran, approximately where they're going to go, through the firewall, up here under the dash, down to the main lines that go all the way back, through the rear firewall, and then come out under here, and then go into the lines that go into the radiator. So obviously everything needs to be tightened up just a little bit. Things like the line here obviously is gonna have to be a little bit shorter so it gets out of the wheel well. And you know, these angles, all the little edgings are gonna have to be covered up so they don't hurt anything. Put holes in my nice new lines. Get some new correct angled silicone connectors. And obviously all the fittings to do the stuff off the water pump. So that'll probably be the next episode. We should have the fittings in by then. And until next time, just keep building.